A guy I was talking to online last month planned the perfect Tesla road trip. He mapped every supercharger and left with a full battery. But 4 hours later, he was on the shoulder of Interstate 70 in Colorado, calling for a flatbed, and his main battery was at 62%. These are 8 mistakes that keep Tesla owners stranded. Number 1. Trusting the built-in trip planner like it is perfect. Look, the Tesla navigation system is good, I will give it that. But the Tesla touchscreen has a problem that drives me crazy. It assumes every supercharger out in the real world is working perfectly, and it does not tell you when one is broken. I dug into this after a guy messaged me about getting routed to a Sheetz gas station in Bealton, Virginia. The supercharger at that location had been shut down completely. The gas station was closed, but his Tesla navigation was still sending people there like nothing happened. The working chargers were 5 miles down the road, and the car had no idea. That is not even the worst example. A software update in 2024 actually erased every supercharger location from the map. Picture this. You are sitting at a supercharger stall, plugged in and charging, and the screen says no charging locations found. That actually happened to people. That is what you are trusting with your road trip. I personally think every Tesla owner planning a road trip should cross-check with a better route planner before they leave. It factors in wind, temperature, elevation, and it actually shows you third-party chargers too. But even if your route is perfect, the next mistake can drain your battery before you even get back in the car. Number 2, leaving Sentry Mode running at your hotel. This one is sneaky because Sentry Mode feels like a feature you should always have on. Your Tesla is sitting in a hotel parking lot in a city you do not know, so of course you want the cameras rolling. The problem is that Sentry Mode pulls about 250 watts non-stop. That is roughly 1 mile of range gone every single hour. Park overnight for 10 hours and you just lost 10 miles. Park at the airport for a week and you might come back to a Tesla that will not drive. I have seen this play out so many times in the forums, it is almost funny at this point. A guy leaves his Model S at the airport at 80%, flies out for a work trip, lands at 11 at night, and the car is sitting at 14% because the Sentry drain took it down to 20 and then the system auto shut off. Now he is wandering an airport parking garage at midnight trying to find a charger before he can even drive home. But here is the sneakiest part. If you have third-party apps like Tessie or Teslafy checking on your car, those keep the computer awake too. I read about a guy who traced a mystery drain at the airport back to an iPhone home screen widget that was pinging the car constantly. He killed the widget and the drain dropped to basically 0. So before any road trip, turn off Sentry Mode at your destination, disable cabin overheat protection if you are somewhere cool enough, and check how often your third-party apps are pinging the car. All that drain is annoying, but it is nothing compared to what happens when you skip one step before driving in the cold. This next mistake made national news. Number 3. Ignoring cold weather preconditioning. January 2024. Chicago drops to about 2 degrees with a wind chill around -20. Suddenly, there are rows of dead Model 3 and Model Y vehicles lined up at supercharger stations across Oak Brook, Rosemont, and Skokie. The footage was everywhere. One guy at the Oak Brook station spent 3 hours that day and 3 the day before, and his Tesla would not take a single charge. 0% and stuck. A woman at another station watched her battery drain faster than normal driving from one broken supercharger to the next, and she ended up on a flatbed tow truck. Now here is the thing that bugs me about all of this. The issue was not that it was cold. Everybody knows cold hurts range. The issue was that these owners showed up to supercharger stations with batteries that were too cold to accept a fast charge, and they did not have enough juice left to warm the battery pack up. That is the trap. AAA tested this and found you can lose about 40% of your range once it drops below 20 degrees with the heater running. Here is my take on this, and I know some people will disagree. I think Tesla should not let you start a road trip in freezing weather without at least warning you about preconditioning. The car already knows the battery temperature and the outside air temperature, so it could easily pop up a warning on the touchscreen, but it does not. So precondition before you leave. Set your departure time in the Tesla app, let the battery warm up while it is still plugged in, and do not rely on highway driving alone to heat the pack. Speaking of temperature and terrain, the next mistake combines both, and it almost stranded a guy I have been going back and forth with for months. Number 4. Underestimating mountain passes. So there is a rule of thumb that experienced Tesla road trippers have figured out. About 7 miles of rated range are burned for every 1,000 feet of climb, and you only get about 5 or 6 miles back on the way down through regenerative braking. Take the Eisenhower Tunnel on Interstate 70 in Colorado. That pass sits at over 11,000 feet, and the climb up can eat 115 rated miles on a 70-mile stretch. A Model S driver documented that exact drive from Denver to Keystone. Going up cost 115 miles of range. Coming home on the same road used 30 miles. That is a massive gap, and the trip planner does not always get it right. But the part that actually scares me is what happens when you combine freezing temperatures with a mountain descent. If your Tesla battery sat in freezing temperatures overnight at a ski lodge, regenerative braking might barely work the next morning. One driver reported coming down a steep 5-mile descent, using the friction brakes the entire way, because regenerative braking was basically off. He said he could smell the brakes by the bottom. If you are crossing any pass over 8,000 feet, charge your Tesla battery higher than the trip planner suggests. Give yourself a cushion. The navigation assumes a clean, warm, sea-level car, and your car on top of a mountain in January is none of those things. Elevation is not the only thing the trip planner ignores, though. There is something you probably strap to your car every summer that wrecks your range even worse. Number 5. Loading up a roof box or bike rack without adjusting your range math. I see this every single summer, and it kills me. A family loads up their Model Y with a big Thule cargo box on top, 2 bikes on a hitch rack, and takes off for a week at the beach. The trip planner on the Tesla touchscreen says they will arrive with 20%. They arrive with 3%. The numbers on this are wild. Testing showed a Thule cargo box on a Model 3 packed with passengers made the car use 40 to 50% more energy per mile. 4 bikes mounted on a Model S roof at 60 miles per hour cut the range by 1/3. And here is my favorite detail from all of this. A man in Sweden actually tested mounting his Thule cargo box backwards on a Model 3 and cut the penalty from 16% down to less than 4%. Same box, flipped around because the direction it faces changes how the wind hits it, and towing makes it even worse. A Model Y pulling a small U-Haul trailer from Kansas to Washington burned exactly twice the energy per mile. The driver had to slow down to 55 miles per hour on 80 miles per hour roads just to make it between Supercharger stops. Your car cannot see what is on your roof or what you are dragging behind it. You have to manually adjust. I would add at least 25% to your range estimates with a loaded roof rack, and 50% or more if you are towing anything. If you are finding this helpful, hit subscribe. I put out Tesla content like this every week, and I do not sugarcoat anything. Now this next one sounds small until it happens to you at the worst possible time. Number 6, starting your trip with a pending software update. Here is something I did not fully understand about Tesla updates until I really looked into it. Once the update starts installing, you cannot cancel it. You cannot drive the car. You cannot even unlock the doors in some cases. It is supposed to take about 30 to 45 minutes, but it does not always go that smoothly. My favorite story on this comes from the Tesla Motors Club forum. A man started an update, walked into the grocery store, bought ice cream, came back, and the Tesla was still updating. An hour later, it was still updating. He called Tesla support, and they told him there was nothing they could do. Apparently, melting ice cream does not qualify as an emergency. I laughed at that one, but the reality is not always that harmless. A Model Y got stuck at 48% on a 2022 firmware version and stayed there for several days. Every reboot, every wireless reset, nothing worked. The owner finally called the main Tesla support number, and an agent restarted the car from their end, and it was fixed in 5 minutes. At least there is a solution, but imagine that happening the morning you are supposed to drive 6 hours to a wedding. My advice is simple. Switch your update preference to standard before any trip, not advanced. If you see an update notification pop up on the Tesla touchscreen, do not accept it unless you have at least an hour of dead time and plenty of charge. The spring 2026 update even added an automatic install toggle, and I would turn that off immediately if you ever take road trips. Alright, this next one is the mistake that makes me want to grab people by the shoulders because it is so easy to prevent and so devastating when you do not. Number 7. Ignoring the 12-volt battery warning. This is the one that makes me angriest because it is the dumbest failure mode on the car. Your Tesla has a small 12-volt battery, just like a gas car, that runs the computers, the door locks, the touchscreen, everything electronic. I had a customer bring in a Model 3 last year because the screen kept rebooting randomly on its own. It turned out the 12-volt was on its way out. If that little battery dies, the entire car is bricked. The doors will not unlock, the screen goes black, and the charge cable stays locked in the port. And it does not matter if your main battery is at 100%. You are not going anywhere. On pre-2022 Model 3 and Model Y vehicles, this is a regular lead-acid battery that lasts about 2 to 4 years, way shorter than in a gas car. And the warning messages are easy to dismiss. The first one just says schedule service to replace low voltage battery. Sounds like it can wait, right? The second one says the electrical system cannot support all features and warns the car might shut down unexpectedly. That is the one where you should be pulling into the nearest Tesla service center, not continuing your road trip. The stories on this are brutal. A 2018 Model S died at a Supercharger in Southern California during a road trip from Austin to San Francisco. The 12-volt and the DC to DC converter both failed. The repair bill came to $3,100. The tow driver told the owner it happens all the time. And there is a viral story from 2025 where a woman was 1,500 miles from home and her doors locked. The touchscreen went black and the brake pedal stopped responding. A 12-volt failure combined with a bad software update. The first tow company bailed because they did not have the right flatbed for a Tesla. If your Tesla pops any 12-volt warning, treat it like the check engine light is flashing. Do not wait. Do not schedule it for next week. Get it handled before you leave town. I talked about this in my video on Tesla maintenance mistakes, and the comments on that one were full of people who learned this the hard way. Even when your car is running perfectly and your 12-volt is healthy, there is still one more mistake that can leave you sitting in a line for hours with no backup plan. Number 8. Depending on superchargers during a holiday weekend with no backup plan. The Tesla Supercharger network is the best EV charging network out there. I will say that all day, but even the best network has limits, and holidays are where those limits show up hard. Thanksgiving 2019 at Kettleman City, California. About 50 Teslas lined up in a quarter-mile-long queue waiting to charge. Tesla limited sessions to 45 minutes and brought in a mobile Megapack unit, but it could not keep up. Other supercharger stations along Interstate 5 in California had 10 to 15 car lines at Mojave and Atascadero that same weekend. There is a newer problem that is only getting worse. Vandals have been cutting supercharger cables for the copper inside. A station in Vallejo, California, behind a Target store, had all 9 cables cut overnight. This was the third time it happened at that same location. Houston had 5 separate stations hit in a single week. So what is your backup? A CCS adapter. They cost about $125 from Tesla, and they let you charge at Electrify America, ChargePoint, and other third-party networks. But I need to be real with you about those networks. A Consumer Reports survey found problem rates at Electrify America around 35%. EVgo was over 40%. A Harvard study found that about 1 in 5 public chargers do not work. Compare that to the Tesla network at about 96% reliability. The backup is not as reliable as the main network, but having a CCS adapter in your frunk beats sitting in a parking lot calling for a flatbed at midnight. Here is what ties all of this together. I have never seen a Tesla stranding story that was only one mistake. It is almost always 3 or 4 of these, stacked on top of each other. An owner ignored a 12-volt warning, left Sentry mode on, loaded a roof box the Tesla navigation did not know about, and then hit a vandalized supercharger. Every viral story, from Chicago to Kettleman City to the woman with the locked doors, comes back to a few of these 8 things piled together. If you want to keep your Tesla ready for the next road trip, go watch the video popping up on screen right now. 3 brands that Tesla owners keep buying are terrible for range and for wear, and I break down exactly which ones to avoid and which 7 actually last. One of the top 3 might be on your car right now.